Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay, so if you could like turn your cameras on so I can see you, just so I can get used to your faces, I really would appreciate it. Thank you. So I won't hold you all long. This is going to be a really brief meeting. I do have a somewhat of agenda to just go by, and if there's anything in general that you all need to discuss, feel free to discuss or ask any questions while we have everyone available. And we'll just kind of go from there. So again, welcome. This is our monthly PRLU provider call. Today is February the 2nd at 10 a.m. And these meetings are recorded, and you can um, uh, review the recording through the website, and I'll later send out the link to the website once the recording is ready through Zoom. So again, welcome everyone. And so I'll try to go ahead and share my screen so we can take a look at this agenda. And again, if you need to interrupt me, that's totally fine if you have any questions, and we'll just kind of go from there. So give me just a second. Okay. All right, here we go. I need to move this out the way. Okay. So again, this is our monthly PRLU provider call. Um, we first wanted to just check in with our background check unit. So I think we may have Kayla Bodie available. And Kayla, if you have any updates for the background check unit, just please let us know. If not, I'm sorry for putting you on the spot, but I just wanted to check in with you first.
No, you're fine. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So I don't have any major updates. We are processing from the last couple of days from being out of office. So unfortunately, we can't access our system when we are teleworking. So we are getting those caught up today. So you should see a lot of those that you've been submitting over the last 2 days getting processed this morning. Other than that, I don't have any major updates. Nothing has really changed in the background check world. So I'm going to put my contact information in the chat box. Myself and Brenda Burr are both on the call. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat or go ahead and ask. Otherwise, you can reach out to either one of us with anything that you might need.
Well, thank you so much, Miss Kayla. Okay, so moving along, we'll go ahead and get it into our discussion for today, one of our discussions. So, and this is just open forum, I guess. So if anybody can respond, and so we can just kind of get the dialogue going. So when you do have new youth entering your homes or your facilities, like what does that look like? So how do you welcome them into your facility, or what do you all prepare them for, or um, do you try to prepare them to like, hey, expect this to happen, or you know, these are the group of people that you'll be spending all of your time with, and this is what to expect from them. So can anyone kind of express how you welcome your new youth into your homes or your facilities?
Hi, this is Renessa from Piney. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just making sure. So I love the weather, by the way. It's been great in Fayetteville. We don't get days off, but it's okay.
I know it.
Anyway, so when we have a new resident admit to the program, we've got a few different things that are happening. First, they will meet with our admission specialist, and she is trained on not only the admission, but things like doing the inventory, or not the inventory, but doing the search of the clothing and explaining what's appropriate and what's not to the resident and the guardian, if the guardian is there. And then they also meet with the nursing staff, and the nurses do a nursing admission We also then have what we call, and what we're actually working on, it's funny you bring this up, is we're looking at adding a couple of things to the admission process. But that's kind of, we have the different departments that meet with them. They will meet with their primary therapist too. And then we're looking at, through student council, kind of having we have to be really careful with having another resident be their buddy or whatever you want to call it, because of different dynamics that can occur with the population. But we are exploring that, and also, there's certain staff that will take the lead on that. So that's just a real brief explanation of what we do.
Also, this is Anton from Perimeter Forest City. From a clinical perspective, we just acknowledge the overwhelming process that they're in. We always make sure it's a non-clinical person that brings them in, because they need to see that it's not just a therapist that can help them. And so we acknowledge the fact that, especially by the end of the day, we know you're tired. We know that you've had a lot of questions from the admissions team, from nursing. Are you okay? And sometimes that has just been, we're always, of course, analyzing our process to make it better, but that's been probably one of the most effective things that we do, and that the residents say that they like that. I go to this place and that place, and nobody asks me, am I okay? Nobody checks in with me. They're just processing me like I'm a number. So I think just really reminding myself of that process, and the staff of that process, is a really effective strategy.
So for the agency, so I know we went through those a couple of years of, COVID and restrictions. So are your youth able to have any visitations anymore? Like, how does it work out for you all? Or do they have to wait till DCFS comes and they go off site, or what does that look like for you all?
We've continued with our scheduled visitation with family, workers, whoever.
So what about youth from out of state? Are they doing virtual calls, or is someone flying in to check on them, or what is that process?
So, oh, go ahead, somebody else.
No, go ahead, Renessa.
At Piney Ridge, I think most know that we have kids from multiple different states, and so it really depends on the state, but we do have virtual family therapy. We have some families that fly in every 3 months and see the resident. We have some states where they are in DCFS custody. They may call it a different terminology in the different state, but it's a DCFS guardian. And a lot of them will come monthly, and sometimes they come on the weekends and see them. So we're doing in person and virtual, and for in-state, we are also doing overnight passes for the residents that are at the appropriate level and safety for that.
Okay.
I'll speak for Mill Creek. We've got our visits are pretty well returned to normal, but I'd say that with precaution. Our patients in state and out of state are all have that opportunity. Like if there is someone to visit, then that's the possibility for them. We will arrange at least quarterly for like family members to have that contact. We will actually fly the family in, set them up with a hotel room, rental cars, and they can have a 24, 48-hour pass with them, and so that would be done quarterly. We've seen pretty good success with that. A lot of families are very appreciative of that, getting to see their loved ones in the treatment environment also. So.
Thank you, Chris. Okay. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And at youth home, we're pretty much doing the same thing. It really depends on the safety level of the child, but we do bring families in from out of state. We pay for their flights. We help them with their rental cars. We pay for that. A lot of times, maybe the client's not safe enough to spend overnight with them, but they'll take them off campus to go to lunch, or maybe for 4 hours, they go to the mall, do whatever. But there are times we do allow them to stay in the hotel with the family too, if it is safe enough for the client to do that. It also helps us determine where they're at in their safety level in terms of maybe going home. So it's good that we have been able to reinstate the overnight passes, because now we see some issues that we may need to address because they get comfortable here and it's, you know, such a structured environment. We don't see some of those treatment issues after a while. So it's good that we've been able to start those overnight passes back up again.
Okay. So,
But
go ahead.
Ebony, to be
Mhm.
honest, some of it is related to insurance and payment.
Mhm.
Some companies won't let you do overnights, or if you do more than one overnight, then they feel like they're not appropriate for this level of care. And so sometimes, you know, you have to look at the state and the insurance. Sadly, I feel like in today's world, you know, there's the pressure to shorten and shorten stays, which sometimes does affect what the facility is able to do clinically for the resident. Sadly, sometimes we're asking parents to come here and to get the parents here, whether it's in state or out of state. A lot of times it's either the inability on the parents' end or the grandparents' end, or they have multiple kids at home and they can't find a babysitter. So it's a struggle at times.
Yeah, I can imagine it. So are any of the providers seeing that there's an increasing amount of youth who are having to stay there, like 2 and 3 years, or are you guys working through that process to not have those youth remain at your agencies so long? Or like, what's the dynamic of that situation? Or are you finding that many youth are completing their treatment and they're able to be discharged, you know, through your normal processes? Or like, what would be the struggles with that situation?
Hey, Ebony, here at Southern Christian Home, we are dependent on the court system and DCFS, and we have 2 sibling groups that have been here almost 3 years. And so we finally started seeing a little bit of movement on the court side, but we're dependent on those court orders, whether they're going to actually terminate parental rights or move on to trial home placements or whatever. So that's been real frustrating for us for the last couple year or so, thinking that the court system was bogged down. But other than that, we have seen some that were able to finally get to go home to biological parents, and we've had some that were able to get to be adopted. So
Okay.
hopefully on the right side of that.
Thank you for sharing, Charlie. Does anybody else have any discussion on that topic?
I'll share in terms of youth home. With our DCFS kids, we are having a problem towards the end of, you know, their completion and treatment, finding someplace to put them that's an appropriate level of care, whether they're in a QRTP program, need to be moved up to residential because their acuity level is too high, which becomes a huge safety issue in our QRTP houses because they're not really appropriate for the way that we're able to staff. So we've had some significant issues with that, and actually our acute stays have increased for that program specifically because these kids, their acuity level is just not appropriate, and we're having a hard time getting them moved and having people accept them to residential programs or whatever. In terms of our PRTF program, we don't have a whole lot of DCFS kids. And so we haven't really had that problem. And our stays have, I agree, our stays, the insurance companies are trying to get them out quicker and quicker and quicker. But one of the big issues that we've run into recently that's been more of a problem than it has been in years past is parents not feeling safe enough to get their kids to go home. So they want them to go to alternative group homes. And a lot of times, if they're not a DCFS client, we have a hard time finding them a place to go. And that's become a bigger and bigger problem here recently, that these parents, I mean, it's not like they don't want to be involved with their kids. They're still coming and doing visitation and phone calls and all of that, but they just don't feel like it's safe enough. And we have a hard time finding alternative placement for those kids that are not in DCFS custody.
So from the parents' perspective, do you think that treatment is working for the youth at your agencies, or are the youth kind of resistant to what the therapists are trying to work with them on? Or like, what are you guys seeing from that perspective?
For the most part, our kids are they respond very well to their treatment. The families, are participating in family therapy. It's just, I think, you get to a certain point where you've tried this and tried this and tried this and tried this. And almost when their child comes to a residential facility, that becomes a respite for them. And they see how life could be, when they're not having to deal with that, but they still get to see their kid. And I think that's, they're just at the end of their rope. They don't really know what else to do. And they have to worry about keeping, especially if they have other kids in the house, they have to keep everyone safe. And I think that's really what it boils down to. I'm not a therapist, so I can't speak 100% to what the clinicians are experiencing with their families. I just know that placement going home is becoming a bigger and bigger problem.
Okay.
Yeah, the level of trauma that the residents have, and at Piney Ridge, we do work with residents that have engaged in sexually maladaptive behavior. So there's the additional dynamic related to that. And so even at Piney, we have seen an increase of that. And I'm sure at every facility, there's a level of potential manipulation by the resident or, by their child. And so sometimes they're concerned that they're getting over on the therapist and all that, and it is a concern, and certainly they want their other children to be safe in the home. So I agree with everything, that's being said. And DCFS a lot of times is working really hard, with us on placement too. But because of the trauma or the developmental disability or the severe emotional disturbance, sometimes it does get harder and harder to place residents. And when we have third-party agencies looking at the facility and why is this resident still here, it's not because the agency wants them to remain, it's because there's no other place for them.
Okay. Thank you, Vanessa. I thought I seen Megan Dade join the call. She may have left already. There she is. Hey, Megan, I had a question, and this is more for our staff. So they have the understanding that we don't have a license type for QRTP, and that they should follow the regulations for residential standards. So can you just kind of explain like the levels of, I don't know if it's care for your contracts. So what type of contracts does DCFS have so that the licensing unit can have a better understanding of that?
Good morning. Are you referring to all of our placement contracts or specifically QRTG?
Well, let's talk about all of them. We got a little bit of time.
Okay. So, like I said, good morning, everyone. We have placement contracts with several different levels of care. I will start with our pretty much our lowest level of care, which would be PLPA, private license placement agencies, and specialized private license placement agencies. those are going to be programs like ABCH Connected, Second Chance Ranch, Free Will, and Compact Assemblies of God. They recruit, train, and open their own foster homes. So they do whatever they need to do, send us the template, we open the home in Chris, and we place our foster kiddos there. We PLPA, SPLPA differs from PLPA because we put SPLPA in place because we were struggling, and sometimes still do, placing our large sibling groups. So, and of course, our older youth. SPLPA providers accept children 12 and up, sibling groups of 3 or more, and youth stepping down from QRTP. We then have therapeutic foster care. We have contracts with 13 providers statewide. They, again, recruit, train, and open their own foster homes. Our kiddos typically have had an independent assessment. They are attributed to a pass, and they have a major mental health diagnosis. Above, we have emergency shelter contracts statewide, and they have the emergency residential care license, I believe. They accept our kiddos, supposed to be up to 14 days, but as some of you on this call know, we oftentimes go past 14 days. So we're gonna say, well, it's supposed to be 14 days, but that doesn't always happen. We have contracts with DDS providers. Those providers, again, they recruit, open, and train their own foster homes, but they are not licensed by DCC ECE. They are licensed by DDS. We have about 5 providers statewide. They take our youth who have been diagnosed as having an intellectual disability and have an open DDS waiver. We have contracts with QRTP, Qualified Residential Treatment Programs. I think we have, I no longer manage those contracts, but I think we have contracts with about 13 programs. They are still licensed as residential. However, there are federal requirements that came out of Family First that makes them different from when we had your regular group home. So that means a QRTP provider, not only do they have to be licensed by DCC ECE, they have to be accredited. They have to have a trauma-informed program. They have to have access to a nurse 24/7, not necessarily the nurse has to be there on campus, but access to a nurse. They have to, what was not required with residential group homes in the past is that aftercare piece. A judge has to approve for youth to be placed in QRTP. And it seems like there's one. There may be one more. So those are the QRTP programs. They were, again, developed out of Family First to be more treatment, which makes it different from the group homes we had in the past. We also have contracts with acute psychiatric facilities and subacute, as well as PRTF
Okay.
programs.
Okay, thank you so much, Megan. And I didn't mean, I'm
You're
sorry for
welcome.
putting you on the spot.
No
But
problem.
I took the chance while we have our staff on the call. So with that, I did want to discuss some things that we are seeing like across the board with the providers. So there's safety for your staff. And so there have been a few incidents where maybe a youth has been aggressive with your staff. And I just kind of wanted to talk about like, does anybody have any suggestions on how you can kind of, I mean, it's probably gonna happen, but are there ways of de-escalation that anyone can share for this particular provider call? If you know that you were, if your staff are seeing more incidents where that the youth are just acting out or, being physically aggressive, what different things could they do to try to prevent that situation from happening? So if anybody can share some of their experience or something that has been helpful for them in the past.
Sure, this is Helena from Forest City. We definitely at one point had a lot of our residents being physically aggressive toward our staff, attacking staff. But one thing that we done was we buckled down on our crisis intervention training, and we really focused in on the verbal de-escalation piece, as well as being a great support to our staff whenever we're having those crisis moments. So not only do you have your crisis management people coming, not only are the staff dealing with the crisis hands-on, but you have your SAMA instructors on site as well. You have your entire leadership team present. You have your clinical director there verbally de-escalating, as well as maybe the assigned therapist, depending on, of course, the time of day, what's going on throughout the day. You have everybody on call that if we need to be present as a support system to our staff during that moment, we can be, as well as everybody being trained hands-on, including leadership, maintenance, housekeeping, dietary staff. So when things happen, because a lot of the times our youth build relationships and rapport with people outside of the direct care staff and leadership. They build rapport with the maintenance guys. They build rapport with dietary staff. So having everybody being trained on how to properly intervene, or also just being able to identify, hey, this staff's had enough. Let's switch out. Let's let this staff remove themselves for the moment. We have little catchy phrases like, hey, you have a phone call, or hey, your car's running, or hey, you have a delivery up front. We have little things that we say so our staff know, hey, it's time for you to check out because at this point you've had enough.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Helena. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Anyone else have anything to share?
Well, this is Renessa. I will say that we've really focused on structure for the residents. Seems like our aggression overall, when you compare it now versus 3 years ago, is a lot lower, though the residents are coming with more trauma, lots of different things going on. And I think a lot of it is structure, and something that our CEO Justin talks about, and he's going to be training us all on is, and I love this saying, is connection before correction. Just like what Helena was talking about, is having a rapport with the residents and having a connection with them instead of just, trying to be a drill sergeant or a correctional officer with them. So I would say all the things that have been said, and having great structure and have the residents seeing different things that are going to be going on. Oh, I need to work for that. Oh, I want to do that. And just having the attitude that we can do this together.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. So with that, since I know school has been out in my area, and so I've had some kids at home. They're much older. They're about to graduate, and so they can kind of entertain themselves. So for those of you who have the foster homes, and just even in your agencies, since the youth haven't probably been able to get to their teaching class or go to school, so what has occupied their time? What type of structure have you had?
Hi, at Perimeter, my activity coordinators have been really working. We're doing Valentine doors of each, not really doors, but walls really. We kind of build off of the Christmas thing. We said we can do this for almost every holiday. So that's what they've been doing. We've also started a zero write-ups celebration at the end of the month. They're finishing up the basketball tournament today, hopefully. And then we're also going to have a staff versus resident basketball game that should be, I don't know if that's going to be funny or interesting. We're going to see. And so we also, you know, having incentives for them as well. And this is not, once again, a big thing, acknowledging the situation. We know that you're inside, but you know, being safe is better than being outside in the ice. And so surprisingly, we have been able to really have a pretty controlled environment over the past few days, because we have been keeping them engaged in activities and reminding them of activities that we have coming up.
Very good. Those are some good ideas. Okay.
Our students have AMI days, so we schedule them to complete their schoolwork as well, and then activities.
Okay. Okay, so something additional that we just wanted to talk to you all about in general is that we've seen this across the board as well. And I'm a check with Chelsea Vardell. She's on the call as well. But the general requirement, the standard is 110-10, and it's referring to when a complaint of maltreatment is received. So Chelsea, if you don't mind, if you can kind of discuss what you've been seeing with that particular standard with the providers, please.
Hi, Ebony. I wasn't expecting that. I was over here taking notes, but anyway, what we had been seeing on that, and I had brought it up to Ebony and Shay's attention, was that when we have maltreatment investigations occurring, typically the investigator will come to the facility and discuss things with the provider, including like a safety plan of not allowing that staff person to have any contact with the child. And we just wanted to make sure that there was a reminder that per the licensing requirements, if that person is in an active maltreatment investigation, it is not just that child who is the alleged victim in the report, but it's all children. So that staff is not allowed to have any contact with any children pending the results of the investigation. Now you guys can submit those interim corrective actions to us, and we will review those if you want that staff to continue to work in a different manner without contact with children. But I just wanted to touch back and give a reminder back on that to make sure that we're not having staff continue to work because an investigator had said it's okay for them to work. We still have to follow our licensing requirements as well.
Thank you so much, Chelsea. And before I move forward, I didn't want to forget about our adoption agencies. So for our adoption agencies, if there's anything that you need from licensing, or if you have any questions, feel free to share. We know that you all have your duties to do throughout the year. And so we don't want you to feel that, you know, we're neglecting you all, but we will be reaching out to you and making visits. One thing I did want to talk about is the board. So whenever your agency, you know, foster home or whatever, if you ever need a request that needs to appear before the board, the deadline to do so will be the third day of the month that board is going to be held. So we do have board this month. And so that means February 3rd, tomorrow will be the last day to submit any requests to the board. And so what we've run into is that, well, what we'll do is we'll send out a notification that, hey, you've been approved to appear before the board, and someone will make an attempt to confirm that information. It may come from Abigail Cranford. She's my assistant. But if we don't get confirmation on that, then it could possibly mean that you won't be added to the agenda. Or it could be a case where you'll, you know, if you show up, you may have to wait until the end of the board meeting to present your request. And so we just want to make sure that we keep our agenda process streamlined. And so you can let us know if you have any questions about that. And I'm gonna pick on Becky to see if she had anything to add for that, because she's over our agenda.
I mean, you were just doing a great job of putting everybody on the spot today. Thank you so much. Yes. Yeah, you guys, I don't have anything to speak about on the board. I think everything's kind of running smoothly, and I do appreciate, all those requests that do get in. on the 3rd or even well before the 3rd. So thanks, everybody.
Okay, well, we're close to wrapping up. And so what I did want to just discuss is the best part of me project. And I'm gonna give y'all just a quick result. So we only had one person, one youth who participated in that their project, and that person came from Charlotte Lockhart's team. And so it was a really great response that I received, and it was right on time for me. So I don't know about some of you all, but some days I come in and I'm like, oh, I have to answer all these emails or respond to whatever situation is going on at either a foster home or an agency. And I kind of have to like mentally prepare my mind for that. And it's sometimes kind of stressful if you get a lot of them. So I can just imagine what, you guys are going through. But when I received that letter from that agency, from that young man, it just totally turned my spirits around immediately. And I just so appreciated that he took the time to, tell me some things about the best part of himself and his goals and what he hoped that they would look like. And so I would encourage you all to, if you have time, if there's something that you normally do, to continue to do, or if you haven't done it, just kind of give that assignment to your youth and, figure out or let them express themselves through writing on how they see themselves and what they look forward to in their future. And so I'll be reaching out to Perimeter to get some additional information and to get a response back to that youth. And so thank you so much for having that young man participate. If you guys still want to send me in some information, that's fine. Go ahead. I did put a deadline on it, but it's fine. I thought I was going to be bombarded with a lot of information, but I was not. So I'm able to receive that information. What they can do is they can write it up, they can give it to you, and you can send it to me in an email. So that's how that works. So we can continue with that process or not. It's just up to you guys. So so good job, Charlotte Lockhart's team. And I just wanted to kind of put you guys on the spot. So from my end, I don't work with you all personally. That's more Shay and Chelsea's team, but it appears that you guys are really doing everything that you can to turn the agency around. And I just want to say good job and kudos to that. So we appreciate it from the licenses end. So good job. Thank you. So with that, I wanted to give anyone the opportunity to ask any questions that you have for the licensing unit. If not, I'm not going to hold you all. I really appreciate your time. We'll get some information out to you all. Oh, so we've been working on a quiz for the providers. And so once we get that finished, we're going to send it out to you all. It's an open book quiz. It's about the regulations concerning the things that are cited most, either in the facilities or in the foster homes. So be looking out for that. It's not mandatory, but we just want to do everything that we can on the licensing end to ensure that you understand the licensing standards. And so be looking out for that information. I do want to thank the background check unit for participating and everyone else. So with that, you guys have a great day.
You too, Ebony. Bye.
Bye.